In studio right now is Dave Catalfamo. He is now the newly appointed Oneida County Economic Development Director. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we spent a lot of time in Albany, and it is warmer in Albany.
Is it?
Yeah, well, it was on Friday, I'll tell you that. But where you were over there by the Assembly Building, the Senate, that wind just blows through there, especially in the winter.
It's basically a built wind tunnel.
It really is, yeah. Okay, so congratulations on your position.
Thank you.
And tell us what that means.
So, I mean, my own personal experience involves, almost a decade doing economic development.
Yeah.
And in fact, I first got into it. One of the first things I worked on was BRAC here. And that's how I became familiar with the region, with a lot of the players here. And
we had a couple of tough fights.
Very tough fights.
Yeah.
But the community came together and worked with the state and federal leaders and prevailed. And what you see out there right today at the airport, the base, as I still call it, but I know the airport, is really quite the transformation. And really, what you see at Rome Labs is a continued investment and really one of the most important research assets in all of upstate New York. So, this is a great opportunity for me to be part of County Executive Passetti's team and to focus on some assets that probably need some additional attention to help bring them forward.
Well, I can throw some at you. The hospital, of course, looks like everything's moving forward towards downtown, but we still have these two facilities that are going to need to be repurposed in some way. Will that be a part of your job?
Look, anything that the county executive asked me to be a part of, I'm going to be a part of. So it's going to be part of my job. Certainly. Look, I think that, obviously there's a lot that's going on right now with respect to the EIS and the hospital going forward. And look, think about this, and this is something I don't know that your listeners maybe definitely appreciate, something that I understand now. Between the hospital, what's going on the roadways down there, what's going on in the U District, it's all, you're talking about almost $750 million worth of investment. Yeah. A public investment going into just a few square blocks. You look at what's going on, down the street from there, the REA wing and whatnot. It's such a unique opportunity. And it's
Have we ever seen, we've talked about this here, and I was doing this with Griffo, the amount of money that has come into this area. And if you put Nano in there, and we'll get into Nano, we have, we can criticize this governor, and there's plenty of criticism to go around, but at the same time, we've never seen this type of money invested into this area.
It's unique, and it's also a unique opportunity for the private sector to step up and partner. And again, something that's probably not known to a lot of your listeners is that all of that area is in what's called a federal opportunity zone as well. And the IRS is going to issue regs in the next month or two, and it's going to create an opportunity for private sector investors to go in there and basically shield tax gains for up to a decade. And it's going to be a really powerful instrument that really going to be very helpful.
Speaking of Nano, what are we now to the point where we're looking for what else could go there? There's a lot of money that's been put in there. There's a lot of money that's sitting and ready to go there. What are your thoughts?
Let's start with the idea. Look, I was involved with Global Foundries, actually, and I worked with Steve DeMayo and Edge for a long time with respect to getting Marcy up to speed from the state side. It's a long burn industry, right? You need to catch it at the right cycle. What we saw in Saratoga and Global Foundries is very difficult to do, and it requires a lot of patience and a lot of
timing was perfect there.
It had the right elements. It also had a Senate Majority Leader who was in a position to help bring the necessary benefits over the line. But to your point, Bill, Governor Cuomo and the state legislature, Joe Griffo and all the folks there have set aside the resources to attract a fab, to the state. Yeah, I think it's still the right thrust. And, clearly there's some opportunities. And what you saw announced a couple weeks ago, which I'm kind of curious how this might work, but the quantum lab and the open lab, that's a decade down the road. Yeah. But in this industry, that's a blink of an eye. Right. And so, you wonder whether or not that's another opportunity. So I know that Edge is working very diligently, as they always have, on bringing additional folks to the site. And, we're going to do whatever we can do to help that effort.
One of the things when Tony had mentioned, might have been last year, that he was looking at this position, you heard a lot of people saying, well, that's what Edge does. So how are you different from Edge?
Well, so think about this. So we have EDGE, which is a bi-county organization, right? And they have to do work in Herkimer as well. And they also have a very unique role with respect to the base and to Rome Labs.
Yeah.
In addition to, I can tell you, going after a fab is in and of itself a full-time job. So really what the county executive has tasked me to do is to help to fill some gaps, to help focus on some issues that need more attention. Like what kind of ancillary development can we bring around a downtown hospital? Right. What can we do to help move forward the REA wing? What can we do to help highlight the drone industry, which is a huge opportunity here for the region?
Big contract just landed out at Griffiths just in the last couple of weeks.
So there's all kinds of opportunity. Again, I don't believe in duplication. I don't believe in overlap. I don't believe in any of that. But I do think, and again, the county executive said this in his State of the County speech, is that economic developers historically look outward, right? We look for attraction, but what we need to do more of is we need to look inward. We have a lot of tremendous assets here that we really can grow upon and actually create more opportunity of. And I just want to say,
no, we never do that, by the way.
We need to do more of it. Look, think about this. Where are the hottest places for jobs? Silicon Valley, Boston, Route 128, New York City. They're not easy places to do business. They're not cheap. They're very expensive. You know what they have? They have a culture. They have a network. They have that investment in the infrastructure and in the people so that they're able to gather and create innovation that grows from the ground up. And that's what we need to do.
Talking to Dave Catalfamo is the Oneida County Executives Economic Development Director, and just recently started the job.
Following up on something maybe you just kind of highlighted a little bit, do we have a workforce that's ready for that? When you talk about a place that's easy to do business and taxes and everything, do we have a workforce where we could even support that kind of industry, or are we just a service community?
That is the number one question that every employer, but by the way, going back to the 90s when I was doing this, every time we looked at a prospect, every time we looked at a project, the one thing that we would have to prove out is workforce. Now, first and foremost, no one has a harder working workforce. Very few have a better educated workforce. Do we run into challenges with numbers sometimes? Absolutely. And so, one of the things that I do plan to do is work with the labor folks and with the Workforce Investment Board. I think and I don't know this number yet, which is workforce participation rate. What are there things that we can do to make sure that some of our older citizens continue to be part of the workforce because they're crucial. But also keeping those folks. Look, nobody educates more people in America than upstate New York. We can keep them here. And if we have opportunity, we will keep them here. And if we have a cool downtown, and if we have things going on, and we have opportunities.
How important is that?
It's tremendous. It's gigantic.
Life, just the experience that you'll have in a city.
And that's one of the things I think that when you talk about Global Foundries going to Saratoga, look, quality of life, real people make these decisions, right? It's not made in a vacuum. Yes, bottom line count, dollars count, sites count, all that. But you're talking about people who are CEOs that they want a quality of life, right? And this area has a tremendous quality of life, and I think it continues to grow and grow over the years. And I think that's part of the sale, but it's also part of what we need to continue to invest in, which is why that downtown development is so important. Why what you see going out at the base has been so important, and then a lot of the other communities around the county.
So with that investment, we've had people against the hospital going downtown. Investment just does not linger around a downtown hospital. You disagree with that?
I entirely disagree with that. Look, again, we'll go back to, you're talking about close to $700 million being invested, that's conservatively, in just a couple block radius.
Completely transforming downtown.
Going to completely transform. Now, look, we have an obligation to try to find some kind of synergies. Maybe they're in integrated health, right? Maybe they're in bringing in those kind of health providers that continue to provide that continuum of service, yoga, Pilates, juice stuff, all that kind of stuff. But maybe it's other stuff. Maybe it's medical device manufacturers who have a population that they want to work with Rome Labs to make sure that the devices that are going into our bodies aren't being hacked. So medical device. So we need to go and do the work to try to bring some of that there. But clearly, it's an opportunity.
And I don't think you just hear this argument here, but you probably hear it all over. We have to compete. In economic development, it seems we have to compete. And that means tax breaks. It means incentives. It means corporate welfare is what some people will call it. And don't forget that's our tax money. So there's that concept versus, hey, those tax dollars are going somewhere. Where do you land on that? And how do you answer to somebody who says this is not the way to build a community economically?
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, I probably have been of two minds of that over the years. And I'll tell you, economic development professionals will tell you the big project matters, right? Because it's not just what they employ, it's what they spend in the community. Think about Rome Labs. You got $2 billion plus being spent there. The downward effect of that in a community is huge.
Yeah.
You can't even appreciate it. So big employers matter. They matter a lot. And I think, again, the priorities are right with respect to having that big dollar amount there sitting there waiting for a fab or a similar type project to come to Marcy. I think it is the right project. But again, I go back to, I think that more and more we need to look at ourselves. We need to look at young entrepreneurs. We need to look at innovators, and they're tough. It's a difficult game for economic developers and for the community. But I don't think it's necessarily about taxes, because again, it's not so much a cost sensitive thing.
Right.
It's a network. It's a platform. It's a culture of valuing it and investing in it and creating the synergies. I think that can help bring those entrepreneurs around.
Fair enough. I do want to. We should have done this at the front, but you have quite a storied career in politics. You've certainly advised several candidates, gubernatorial candidates as well, a political strategist, and you're wearing a different hat here. So
an old hat, one I never really completely took off.
Yeah.
So when I left the Pataki administration, I never wanted to be a lobbyist per se, even though I ended up in a government affairs firm. So I focused on communications. And so a lot of the work that I did in communications, with both on the corporate and issue side, I worked on things like hydrofracking and tax issues and whatnot, to advising candidates. But always, honestly, economic development, it's I want to call it my first love, but it's something I'm passionate about, and something that, it brings such rewards to communities and to real people. Jobs matter.
Yeah.
So
I always love going to a radio station through my career. Long, unfortunately, shows my age. I would always love going to the stations that were way down there in the bottom, and because there was so much room for growth.
Right.
And you can come in, you could just change the world.
Right.
How do you see where you are right now coming into Oneida County? I don't want to say that you're coming into a place where we're down at the bottom, but there's a lot of room for growth here.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up, and and I'll tie it back to what I've been doing most recently, which is I've looked at a lot of polling and survey data about attitudes in this region, and I will tell you, if you look at upstate at large, and I have, this area actually is much more optimistic than many, many, many parts of the state.
Which is shocking for us.
I mean, it's probably shocking to your listeners to know that, where this area, polls and surveys and focus groups, polls, the surveys and focus, much, much, much more optimistic. And I think that really reflects on the fact you've had basically, steady taxes here since I think 6 years now. The county's held the line on taxes. I think obviously important, but more importantly, you have some exciting things going on, whether it's drones, whether it's the hospital, whether it's what's going on out at the airport. I think that all those things, have really kind of created sort of this idea that we're moving in the right direction.
For the first time, it does feel like, and you'll hear people here say, most people will say, for the first time, it feels like this one is for real.
Yeah.
We've all had plenty come through and snake oil and nothing seemed to work, but this one feels real.
Yeah, no, and I look, I've been a part of a lot of projects over the years. Some happen, some don't. But what you have going on here is foundational. Yeah, it's not risky.
I believe having David Catalfamo here in economic development is a big plus for the area. So
thank you, Mr. Keeler. Great to be here.
Glad you came on. We'll do it again soon.